Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hello.
Good afternoon,
Hi.
Professor.
Hey, good afternoon, Antonio. Good afternoon, Aura. Aura. How's everybody else? I see 8 people, 7 people. Hello, George. How are you? I see 7 people here, and let me quickly check how many people are in the discussion board. Now that's section. So numbers need to match. I see 7, I guess. Oh, 6. Oh, 7. I see 7 people. So yeah, numbers match. Everyone in the um, discussion board are also in the collaborate session. So and yeah, only 7 people. I hope the rest of the class will join shortly. And let me just quickly check where we were in the last class. 1300, section 1300 on November 1st.
Count. Key to
Okay. Oh, all right. So we did, basically how to find
the reverse process of compounding.
Okay.
All right.
So I want you to all open this. You have this file, but you just probably don't know. But you should have. I want you to download this file, and if you go to our topics folder, right? Topic 3, time value of money. And in every topic folder, you have at least like 2 files there that you must download to use with the lecture videos, right? It's not the first time. In every lecture topics folder, there are these files. One is a PDF file, the other one is an Excel file. And it's this Excel file. I want you to download this. Download it now because we need to use it, right? Download it now. And once you download it, it may not be exactly here. I mean, you see, one Excel document contains many worksheets, many spreadsheets, right? Multiple spreadsheets. And when you open it, it would be somewhere here. I mean, it would look like this. It would be here or here or. But look at the bottom tab. And you must go to the first bottom tab that says single cash flow, right? Are you all there? And once you're there, you need to delete all the highlighted cells. Delete all the highlighted cells. All the highlighted cells. Okay. Delete all the highlighted cells. Okay. Now let me make sure, if everyone is on the same page. All right, Angel, are you there, Angel? Angel? Antonio, are you there, Antonio?
Yes, I am here. Yeah.
Okay, Antonio, do you have this file in front of you?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
deleting
great.
the highlighted numbers.
Yeah, you're deleting highlighted numbers. Okay, good. Highlight all the highlighted cells you must do. Aura, are you there? Aura?
Yes, I have it too.
Okay, and make sure you delete all the highlighted cells.
Yeah.
Brian,
Yeah,
Brian, are you there? Do you have this file in front of you?
yes, I
Do you
do.
have it in front of you? Okay, so are you deleting all the highlighted cells?
Yes.
Okay, Chris, are you there?
Yes, Professor.
Okay, you have this file in front of you, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Khalid, do you have this file in front of you?
Yes, I do, but the screen went blank, so I don't know which ones to delete. Did your
The
screen go
highlighted
black?
cells.
Okay.
The highlighted cells. The highlighted cells. All the highlighted cells.
Okay, I'll
Okay?
delete those. Thank you.
All the highlighted cells. All righty. And then Yosahani, yeah. Do you have this file in front of you?
Yeah, I do.
Yosahani? Yes?
I do.
Okay, great, great. All righty. So now let's take a look at the first example, right? Row 2. I mean, this is exactly our example. This is exactly our example, isn't that right? Why? Because the principal is 10,000, right? APR, annual percentage rate, is 10%, time 10 years. And M, we'll ignore M for now. But, so what's going to be the future value? We'll simply build this formula into this solution cell. So all the formulas must start with equal sign, right? Why? Because that's what it is saying. Future value is equal to. We're putting future value here, so it must be equal to principal times. So principal is here, right, in A2. Now you don't need to type it in, right? It's very cumbersome to type it in. So you just click it in, right, with your mouse, right? You place your mouse here, right? Click it, right, with the left mouse button, then it's going to go in there. Times, we'll have to manually type in times, open parenthesis, 1 plus R is there, 10%, and raise that to 10 years, right? And that this symbol, which is called the name is caret. The name is caret, like diamond caret, but it's spelled differently. There are many carrots, right? But okay, let me delete this. Create a new one. What's a caret? It's a universal machine language. Caret is a universal machine language for raising something to power. Okay. Okay. In French, in languages that have accents on the vowels. In French, it's called accent circonflexe. It's like circumflex accent, but it is called caret. Well, official name is right, caret. They just sometimes call it cone sign or hat sign, but the official name is not caret or not caret, not this. And caret is actually French for comes from French carré, which means squared. So from that you can tell it's about raising something to power. And it's actually universal machine language for raising something to power. Okay, so if you do that, hit enter. There you go. And that's what we got in our previous example. I mean, when we calculated it with the calculator. But then next question is, what is this M? M is compounding frequency, this column M. So if compounding frequency is 1, that means annual compounding, once a year. In other words, how many times the compounding happens per year? And if it is 1, once. Annual, once, so it's annual compounding. If it is 4, it's quarterly compounding, quarterly, every quarter. So that means every 3 months. If it is 2, semi-annual compounding, right? Twice a year, so semi-annual compounding every 6 months. Some people think semi-annual is like 6. No. They think, why? Isn't it every 6 months? But think about it. If it is every 6 months, it happens only twice a year, right? Not 6 times, right? If you put 6 there, that means, every 2 months, bi-monthly, right? And of course, that's not, theoretically, there is no reason for no bi-monthly compounding, but for all practical reasons, there is no bi-monthly compounding. And if it is 12, that means, monthly, because it's 12 times a year. And theoretically, it can be even, not only theoretically, 365, right? 365, meaning, let's do this. Let's put this 365. Daily compounding, daily, right? And theoretically, so think about it. Compounding doesn't have to happen just once a year. It can happen monthly or even daily. Okay, or even by the hour, by the minute, by the second. But again, that's only theoretical, right? By the hour, by the compounding by the hour, by the minute, by the second. It's only theoretically possible. But for all practical reasons, they don't use compounding by the hour or by the minute. But compounding daily, that's practically done, right? Actually, all credit card companies charge interest on daily basis, right? So here, now let's think about the next, example, which is the same example as the previous one, but the only difference is that the compounding is quarterly, right? If the compounding is quarterly, then we need to make an adjustment. So for example, so basically principal is the same thing, right? Times 1 plus APR is the annual rate, but if the compounding is quarterly, what should be the rate that's actually applied every quarter? Anyone?
2.5.
Yeah, well, 2.5. And who was this? 2.5. Who said that?
Sorry, Aura.
Aura. Okay.
Mhm.
Aura. So yeah, Aura, you got 0.25 for that. Yes, of course. It will have to be 0.25 every time actual compounding happens, right? Because it's 10%, you will need to divide it by 4. In other words, you need to make adjustment, right? Because 10% is annual. Then you raise it to now. So actually, how many compoundings happen over 10 years? And annually, there are 4 compoundings. So over 10 years, there should be 40 compoundings. Isn't it right? There should be 40 compoundings. So then you just make an adjustment. You multiply that 10 by 4, right? In the you put it in the parentheses. Some people might say, some of you may question, why don't we just enter 40 there? No, you don't do that. Why? If you enter manually 40 there, then this formula will be useless for another situation, right? You cannot recycle, you cannot reuse this formula, right? For example, if the scenario changes and the time is 5 years and compounding frequency is monthly, right? If all of the input data changes, if you hard code it, meaning, you know, if you actually enter 1,000 here, 10,000 here, 10% here, that's called hard coding. If you enter manually the actual number there, then it sticks with that problem only. It cannot be reused for another problem, right? So hard coding is banned. You don't use hard coding. You should always use only the soft coding. This is soft coding. That way, you can just copy it and paste it over, you know, over and over for other problems. Now, and then also when you raise it to power, think about it. You need to put, when you raise it to this, you need to put it in the parentheses because it's PEMDAS. Think about it. If you don't put it in parentheses, what's going to happen? The whole thing will be raised to C3 first. That will happen first. And then the result will be multiplied by D3. Okay? That's not what we want. We don't want that because, you know, it's going to be a completely different result. So what do? We just, you know, put it in the parentheses so that Excel will recognize that this is one chunk, right? C3 times D3 is one chunk, okay? And therefore, if you hit enter, now you will see we have a different result. Of course, the result will have to be different. Future value will have to be different because compounding frequency is higher. There are more compoundings going on, right? And then same principle, same annual interest rate, same length of time, right? Same timeline, but you have a greater future value because the compounding frequency is higher, right? Now we arrive at, you know, the first thing we come to realize, the first discovery about compounding. The higher the compounding frequency, the greater the future value, right? Although, that was my keyboard acting up. My keyboard is acting up. Okay, so. I accidentally deleted it, but that's fine. Another thing we can do is I can also make an adjustment here. Think about it. If I make an adjustment, you might wonder, why do you need to make an adjustment? It's just annual compounding. That's right. There's no difference because M is 1. It won't make any difference. For that problem, it's not going to make any difference. So it's harmless. I mean, it's harmless to make adjustment. It's harmless because it doesn't make any difference. But then when you can copy and paste it down. Now, when you copy and paste it down, right? When you copy it, it's the formula that gets copied. You couldn't, and then this formula will adapt to the new problem setting, right? And if you didn't have it like this, then you can't do that. You can't just copy and paste, right? And the beauty of Excel is that you can easily once you build a solution for one problem, you can reuse, you can copy and paste the solution over and over, as long as the setting on other problems that have the same pattern, same structure, right? That way it saves a lot of time. Now, next example. So here, row 6, you might wonder, isn't it the same thing? Yes, it's the same thing as row 3, right? 10K, 10%, 10 years, quarterly compounding. It's the same, but what's the difference? The difference is I added 2 columns, right? I added in 2 columns for R and N. So R is what? R is the rate, right? It's the interest rate. But then what is the difference between APR and R? APR is annual rate. R is the periodic rate. Periodic rate means the rate that actually applies to the compounding period, right? Each compounding period. So we know R is basically APR divided by N. And N is T times M. I mean, we've been using N as the number of years so far, but let's make it more generic. So instead of number of years, N is the actual number of compounding, right? So we will reserve T as the symbol for time, but it generally means number of years, time in years, but N is the actual number of compounding. So depending on the compounding frequency and T, right, and N will be T times N. So here, for this problem, I can basically, I can do T times N. That's not percentage. No, that's rate. I'm sorry. That was rate. APR divided by N. And I got 2.5%. And for N, I can do T times N. Right? And then, now the formula becomes simpler. Right? Because now it's just principal times 1 plus R raised to N. Okay? So what did I do? Instead of making adjustment inside the formula like this, I made adjustment already outside the formula, right? So that they become part, just the inputs, right? So that the formula is now simpler. And then there's a lot of benefit with the simpler formula, right? Because if complex formula is not necessarily a good thing, because anything complex is difficult to fix. If something goes wrong, first of all, it's hard to identify the source of the error, right? Because the system is complex, right? So it's hard to identify the source of the problem first. Two, it's hard to fix, right? But if you make the system simple, if you make simple system, then it's if something goes wrong, you can easily identify the source of the problem. You can easily fix it, right? It's like any mechanism, any system, right? Complex mechanism is hard to fix, right? First of all, hard to detect the source of error, right? Two, hard to fix, even if you identify the source of the problem. So I would rather, between the two, I would rather go for the simplest system, right? Now, once you're done, of course, we get the same result. But then the beauty of Excel is the rest of the problem, we can simply copy and paste, copy and drag it down. And what gets copied is always the formula, right? Think about it. It's the inner structure, right? It's the not the surface, not the surface. On the surface, it's only the number. But what's important is the structure below the surface, or behind the surface, or behind the front, right? What's important is the mechanism, and anybody who is only, as the old saying goes, don't judge the book by the cover, right? This is the cover. The number is what's on the surface, but behind the number, what is the mechanism, right, that produced the number? That's what's important, and that's what gets copied, right? That's what gets copied. And we don't need the verbiage. I mean, for example, here, we know the narrative already. I mean, we know the scenario. Narrative is the scenario. The scenario is you have, your principal is 250K, and the interest rate is 6%. You put it in the bank for 12 years. Compounding is semi-annual. Then future value is going to be this. Everything is the same thing. Isn't it right? Do we need any verbiage for this? If I make the problem, if I write the exam problem, I wouldn't use any verbiage, because verbiage is for kids. Verbiage is for children who, second graders will always ask for verbiage. I mean, they cannot figure out the crux of the problem unless, they are given the narrative, verbal narrative. Like, Jack and Jill went to the candy store. Jack had $10. Jill had $7. The candies are, $2 each, right? How many candies can they buy? It has to be put into verbal narrative like that. But that's for children, isn't it right? When you are in college, actually verbiage is getting in the way, because you have to read the verbiage and it's slowing you down. And any smart person would know how to separate the fat, meat from the fat, flesh from the fat. You need only in other words, we don't need verbal narrative. Mr. Brown has, $250,000. He considers to invest it in CD that pays 6%, but he has to put it in. The CD requires, a deposit for 12 years. Blah 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 blah. And what's going to be, what's he going to have in his account in 12 years? That's verbiage, right? That verbal narrative we don't need, because you are grown-ups, you are college students, and it's an insult to the intellect of a college level course, college level brain, to demand verbiage all the time, right? But it's a sad fact. Over and over, I've had students in the past that were saying, "Professor, I don't understand. What are we supposed to do? Huh? What are we supposed to do? I need some story. I need some narrative." Isn't the narrative obvious, right? Isn't the narrative obvious, right? When you are given these, inputs, you need to identify what are the variables, right? What are the critical factors? What are the crucial factors in this problem, right? And then the narrative automatically comes. Isn't that right? Without the names like Mr. Brown or whatever, Miss Smith, or we don't need a verbal narrative. It's clear. Principal is 10K, APR is 10%, time is 10 years, compounding frequency is 4, quarterly compounding. Now, what is the problem asking for? It's clear. It's asking for future value. Then all you need to do is, right? Oh, we'll find, a periodic rate, which is, and then actual number of compounding is T times M. Right? Then future value is principal times 1 plus R raised to N, which are done. The rest of them have the same narrative. Just drag it down and we're done. Right? How many problems? Like 6 problems. Right? 6 problems in a split second. Right? So everyone is okay up to this point. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? All right, I would take it as no. Next. Do we need any verbiage for this? Any verbal narrative? No. Why? Because we have future value. We know future value. We know we have APR. We know time. We know compounding frequency. The only unknown is principal. So then what is this about? This is about discounting, finding the present value. And we know present value is, it's called the future value divided by 1 plus R raised to N. But here I would make it like this. I would make adjustment so that of course compounding is annual, so there's no difference. It makes no difference, but it will make difference when compounding is quarterly, and when I copy and paste it down, it will definitely make difference. So here, and then N is T times M. So right now, and we know the answer. The answer will be 10K, but let's see if we get 10K this way. Of course we get 10K. So it checks out. The formula checks out. Our formula checks out. And then this is the reverse, exactly the reverse of this problem, right? Isn't that right? This is exactly the reverse of this problem. So we know the answer already. It's going to be 10K. But let's see if we get 10K. We don't need to build it again. We can just recycle that formula because, and we get 10K because everything is automatically adjusted, right? we get 10K. Okay, so this way, we can easily do multiple problems like this, multiple problems using Excel. And some people might ask me, so Professor, can I use Excel's built-in function? Yes, you can use Excel's built-in function. For example, here, you know what Excel's built-in function is, you know? You click on the formula, right? F of x. F of x means function, right? Function of x. And then the default, when you open the dialog box, you know, it's most recently used. If you don't see future value in the most recently used, then you should go to the financial category, right? And then scroll down until you find FV. Hit OK. And then you give it the rate. But then, look, say you give, now this is, this is why it is, you know, this is why it is pointless. This is why it is, you know, fool's dummy box, right? To use Excel's built-in function, because if you don't think, it's asking for rate. Rate is 10. You will think, oh, rate is 10%. So you enter 10%. You enter that, and then n periods. That's number of periods. You just, without thinking, thoughtlessly and carelessly, you just enter 10 there, right? And present value, you enter that. And you must understand also in a financial calculator, you distinguish between cash inflow and cash outflow. Now, cash outflows must be always a negative number. Why? Because it's the money leaving you, right? It's cash outflow. So it's negative. It's not really a negative number. It just means, you know, that's cash outflow, right? You will be $10,000 less, right? Because it goes into the bank. And then you will, if you don't do that, you will get future value as negative, because the calculator will perceive whatever is the positive number as the cash inflow. Then the other end will have to be cash outflow. So if you don't make it negative here, it will be negative. If you do that, what do you see? You don't get this, but you got this. So why? Because what you did was exactly this. Isn't it right? If you entered B3, which is the APR, but in this problem, in row 3, that is, it shouldn't be 10%, because it should be the periodic rate, because it is quarterly compounding. So then what did you need to do? You needed to make an adjustment here too. I mean, if you're a thinking person, right? But some people don't think. They just mindlessly just punch in the number. That's why I don't want you to use the Excel's built-in function, because using built-in function, they turn you into nothing but a data entry personnel. In other words, you know, data puncher. You become a data puncher if you don't think and just do it mindlessly, right? Also, n periods, if you're thinking, you know, it should be adjusted like this, and then you get it right. Okay? But as long as you're doing it this way, then why don't you just use the formula? And using the formula, the reason I want you to use the formula is because the formula is the mechanism, right? See what's the difference between the two? If you use a calculator or Excel's built-in function, you are nothing but a data puncher. You are just punching in the data into a black box, right? And out comes, right? Out comes the result, the output. And you don't know what's going on in that black box, right? You don't know what's going on in that black box. And the black box is a totally, impenetrable system. If something goes wrong, there's nothing you can do because you don't know you can't break it, you can't open it up, and you don't know the mechanism, so you can't fix it. First of all, even if you can open up the black box, you can't fix it because you don't know the mechanism, right? You don't know the system. But first, it's unbreakable. It cannot be opened. It's just like, a Mac, Apple computer. I mean, I'm an Apple shareholder, but, I don't like Apple product, right? Why? Because Apple product is just like that. It's a black box. I mean, IBM computers, right? Like, IBM, called IBM clone computers like Dell or any other computer, Compaq, there's no more company, Hewlett Packard, Sony, or whatever. All the IBM based computers, IBM system based computers are under my control. I can control up to a certain point. In other words, I can upgrade the hardware, I can upgrade the software, I can also upgrade the hardware, I can open it up and add in something or take out something. I can upgrade the memory because I can insert, I can open it up and insert additional memory chip as long as there is a memory slot, additional memory slot, and I can upgrade the memory. I can open it up and change the CPU. Software and hardware, I can do something because I can understand, not completely, but at least I can understand something about it. It's to some extent under my control. But Apple products, you can't do that. If something goes wrong, you cannot fix it. You cannot upgrade it yourself. You cannot upgrade the hardware yourself. You cannot. It's just an impenetrable black box. You have to take it to the Apple store. And you have to pay for that. Right? That's why I don't like Apple products. But so it's just like that. If you use Excel's built-in function, it's like, black box. You're just punching in the data, and if something goes wrong, you can't fix it. Just like Apple products. But if you use the formula, if something goes wrong, you have some control over it. You can you can scrutinize, you can inspect it, you can inspect and detect or identify the source of the error. If you identify the source of error, you can correct the error, right? You can correct it, and you can fix the system. In other words, what's important is the mechanism, and if you know the mechanism, you have control over it, right? And that's what's important. Why? Otherwise, otherwise you are just nothing but a data puncher, right? And in some other classes, they almost glamorize it. They tell you to use they teach you to use, Excel's built-in function. That's fine. That's fine. But, they shouldn't, what they must tell you first is this is nothing but a black box. And in a black box, if you feed a good data, you will get a good output. But as the saying goes, GEICO, have you ever heard of GEICO? Not GEICO, the insurance. GEICO means garbage in, garbage out, right? If you input the garbage, the output will be garbage too. So in other words, you still have to think, right? You still have to be alert and think critically and logically so that you won't feed in the garbage into the black box. So in other words, if you enter just without making adjustment, if you just enter 10%, if you just without thinking, you just enter 10 years. What is that? You are feeding garbage into the black box. Then only you will get the garbage out, right? And then they are turning you into nothing but a data entry personnel, not the one who can see the system and who can understand the system and devise a solution, devise a mechanism, that solution mechanism, right? Instead of teaching you to have faster data ability, teaching you to just use the calculator. I'm totally against that. Okay. All right. So that's all the time we have. Once again, what's important is the mechanism, control over the mechanism. Okay. And I want you to all have that control over the mechanism, not just being, a data puncher. Okay. All righty. So any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? No? Any questions? All righty. Last call. Any questions? No. All right. If there are no questions, we'll have to call it a day. I will have a great afternoon, and I will see you guys next Monday. All right?
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Aura. Have
Thank
a
you,
good
Professor.
afternoon.
Bye.
You
Thank
too.
you,
All
Professor.
right. Have
Have
a
a good
good
day.
afternoon, Khalid. Have a great afternoon, everyone else.
Have a good
All
one, Mr.
right. All right. Take care now, Brian. All righty. I'll stop sharing. Stop.